In the last few years, there have been several incidences of foodborne illness that have been associated with different kinds of produce. So today I'm going to look at how to wash fresh produce to reduce your risk as much as possible. Remember, there's no such thing as a risk-free food, but I would hate to see people giving up the taste of cantaloupe, strawberries, apples, and grapes because they were afraid it was going to make them sick. There's too much nutrition and health benefit that you get from eating it in comparison to the risk. The risk is actually very, very small. But there are several things that you can do to make sure that your risk stays as small as possible. The first thing you've got to remember is that you always wash produce. No matter what it is, you need to wash it first. There's some debate whether or not you need to wash things that you peel and throw the peel away. My philosophy is that you're using your hands when you're peeling them, and then often you grab a hold of the fruit itself, which would spread any contaminant that was on the peel onto the fruit. So if you're eating an orange, you need to wash the orange before you peel it and eat it. If you're doing a banana, it's the same way. Now, how you wash is depending on the variety of fruit that you're looking at. Strawberries, for instance, are something that you're going to wash right before you're ready to use them. You're going to rinse them in cold running water. And that's basically all you need for any kind of produce is running water that's drinkable. If it's not good enough to drink with, it's not good enough to rinse with. There are some products that are available now. This is an example of one of them that claim to help get your produce cleaner. Well, it depends on what you're trying to clean off. They help wash off dirt, they help wash off any pesticide residues, but so does washing with just plain water. One of the things that they don't make a claim to do is help reduce the microbial content or the viruses, the bacteria, and those kinds of things that might be on the surface of the produce. And that's what makes people sick. It's not the plain dirt, and the pesticide residues are at such low levels that they are not going to cause illness. They are monitored to make sure that they stay low enough that they're not going to be what's going to get you. It's the microorganisms that are going to be the problem. The other thing about these kinds of products is the way that they're used is not the way most of us wash produce. If you read the label, this one is a spray. There's also a soak version of this. It says to take your apple and spray the entire surface and then scrub it or rub it for 20 seconds. Well, that's the length of time we recommend that you wash your hands, and we can't get most people to get up to there. So you're going to be washing your hands for 20 seconds, then rubbing your apple or your orange for 20 seconds. And so I fear that this is something that's not going to happen. If they're not used according to manufacturer's directions, they're not going to do much more than the other. The other thing that they claim is that they will help improve the appearance, particularly of fresh vegetables like broccoli. They'll make them appear brighter green. And the way they do that is if you read the ingredient label, you'll find out that they have baking soda in them. And it's just like when you cook with baking soda, it brightens the color if you don't do it too long. Same thing happens here. Simply the fact of washing and removing dirt also will enhance the color. So you can use them if you choose to. They are not harmful the way soap and chlorine might be, but they're also probably not doing any more for you than just plain old clear running water. Now, looking at several of these different kinds of fruits, you see that the surface of them is quite varied. If you look at an apple, the surface is very smooth, so running with cold water and rubbing it well would remove the dirt. A peach has a fuzzy texture to it, so you may have to rub that a little bit harder to get down to where the microorganisms may be harboring. Strawberries, you need to rinse well. You don't want to soak strawberries and other berries, however, because they absorb the water, and once that happens, you get something that's very waterlogged. Grapes you can rinse off, and that's about all you can do with them too. But if you look at the melons I have here, I've got a variety of melons, and in the last few months there have been several outbreaks of foodborne illness, particularly a salmonella poisoning. It's a rare variety of salmonella. Most of the outbreaks have been in California, New Mexico, Oregon, that part of the country, and they've been associated with cantaloupe. Well, if you compare the skin of a cantaloupe to that of a watermelon, this is very smooth. You could rinse it off with cold running water very easily. You do need to do that because if you don't, even though you don't eat the rind, when you cut it, you'll pull bacteria into it. And then if it's set out for a little while, it can cause foodborne illness, particularly if you've got somebody who's immune compromised. They may be taking penicillin, they may have something like AIDS, they may be combating cancer. Anything that reduces your ability to fight disease is going to increase your risk of foodborne illness. So this could be taken care of fairly easily. This one, just rinsing it off, is not going to do it. So let's look and see how you can scrub down a cantaloupe to make sure that you get as much of the bacteria off as possible. First of all, as I said, you need the cold running water, and then you need a brush. a vegetable brush of some kind. You need to scrub, not just rinse, but you actually need to scrub the entire surface, just as you would for a potato, to make sure that you get all the dirt off. And once that's done, you want to do this shortly before you're ready to use it. Otherwise, you're going to have increased risk of spoilage if you rinse it off and serve it that way. You need to treat it, in this case, because we've had the problems with foodborne illness, you need to treat it as you would raw meat. The incidence has been fairly small, but there have been 39 incidences of Salmonella spuna since the middle of May. And that's a high enough percentage. People have recovered. It's not been life-threatening, although it could be for someone who was already immune-compromised. So it's not that kind of a consideration, but you don't want to enjoy something like this and then end up with foodborne illness from it later. So wash your hands before you use it. Wash your hand, or before you clean it, wash your hands after you've cleaned it, and treat it as you would raw meat or with that same kind of respect, and you won't have any problems with it. There have also been some other types of foodborne illness that have been associated with produce. Listeria monocytogenes has been one that can result in stillbirths and miscarriages, particularly a problem with pregnant women, as you would expect from those outcomes. But it can also affect other people as well. So keep in mind, produce is very helpful, has major benefits for combating heart disease, reducing your risk of cancer, helping with weight control, bringing in phytochemicals and other vitamins and minerals, but you do need to treat them with respect. Most of the illnesses of foodborne illness, most of the incidences of foodborne illness associated with this have come as a result of melons that have been cut at home. Don't give them up, but do treat them wisely. For Oklahoma Gardening, this is Barbara Brown.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.